Oh, George, it's lovely to have you home for Christmas.
Thanks, Mum. Yeah, it's been a funny old year.
And it's lovely to have you here too, Seychelles. This is the first time George has brought his girlfriend to have Christmas dinner with his family.
Mum.
Thank you, Mrs. Russell. It's lovely to be here. Come on now, everyone at the table, it's time to eat. Steve, can you bring out the bird?
I think George is already sitting next to her.
Dad.
Take no notice, Seychelles. George's father's a bit of a joker, you know, dad jokes. Right, help yourself to stuffing.
I think George has already done that.
Dad.
You give over now, Steve. That's quite enough.
Seychelles was just telling me about how different Christmas is in the Netherlands.
Oh, it's not so different, really. Many of the traditions are the same, except we call Father Christmas Sinterklaas. Well, we have a tradition in our family that on Christmas Day we eat a lovely Norfolk goose. But this year, we thought we'd do something different.
What's this? Looks like a piece of carbon fibre.
Yes, it is, son.
What?
It's a bit of your Williams FW43.
But why?
Well, everybody agrees that car was a bit of a turkey. Your dad's not the only joker in this family.
Hello and welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed. Not just Gareth Jones on Speed, but the 2020 Christmas, or if you like, Xmas edition of the podcast. I'm Gareth, he's Zog.
Hello.
And she's Sarah.
Hello.
Hello, you two. Sarah, are you all set for Christmas? Are you sorted?
Oh, well, to be honest, Gareth, I'm not. I still have loads of shopping to do. I'm hoping that the retail shops will stay open in light of this whole big lockdown palaver. So I will get there. It's still a little while away. We've still got a couple of days, so
Yeah.
last minute surge for me.
Amazon is your friend.
Yeah, Zoggy, are you ready for Festivus? Are you celebrating Festivus this year, or what are you celebrating?
Always celebrating Festivus, absolutely, yeah. The aluminium pole is unadorned. I'm ready for the feats of strength and airing of grievances.
Have you any grievances regarding your two partners on Speed that you wish to air right now in the spirit of Festivus?
Disappointingly, no, you're both fantastically professional and always great to talk to. No, I'm sorry, I'm sure if I really dug deep, I could probably find something to gripe about. But no, I'm afraid I have no grievances to air right now.
Good.
So make the most of it.
This will be a happy event then. And in the show today, just to let you know, we've got lots of things planned. We have virtual gift giving later on. We have Christmas poetry. And we've got some crackers to pull with some terrible jokes in, I hope. I don't know if we're going to get gifts in our crackers or just jokes, but we'll see how that goes. But before we get to the festive stuff, let's deal with 2020, which in many ways was a terrible year, but regardless of the best efforts of the coronavirus, we had not just a Formula One season, but a truly glorious Formula One season. Sarah, did you find this season satisfying in F1?
I certainly did, Gareth. I thought this season was a real highlight. I mean, how many different drivers did we get on the podium? It was brilliant. Sergio Perez, he came in fourth. And to think that he doesn't even have a drive next year, are you joking?
Absolutely.
And what about the downfall of Ferrari? That was a huge surprise. And then we just got used to them being at the bottom of the fields in the end. We had a fantastic, dramatic and miraculous crash in the second last race of the season, the big finale for Romain Grosjean. And next year it's been announced that a Schumacher, the son of the great Michael, will be part of the Formula One next year. So he'll be on the grid. That's very exciting.
It is.
And finally, the other bit of excitement is that, Lewis Hamilton, he broke a few records and he took it out and still the greatest driver ever. So there are my sort of highlights of the year. Yeah, and I'll just say that Daniel Ricciardo came fifth, so let's just always remember the Australian.
I was waiting for you to mention Danny Ricciardo, who had a really, really happy season this year, didn't he?
Yeah, he did have a happy season and he ended the season with the fastest lap.
That makes you super happy, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Actually, Doug, I would guess that makes you equally happy because we've all got a soft spot for Daniel Ricciardo, haven't we?
Absolutely, yeah. He's a terrific driver, and his relentless positivity, it always, it seems like nothing can bring him down sometimes. It doesn't matter what's been happening, he's always got a big grin and a friendly word. Yeah, I love Danny Rick, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him in the McLaren next year. I think he's going to be a good partner for Norris. That's going to be a good pairing. I want to see what that lineup can do, and I think they're going to have great teammate chemistry, as good as it can be.
There's one last highlight that I thought probably was one of my big Formula One highlights this year was Daniel Ricciardo's parkour during lockdown. Did you see that video? It was hilarious.
You mentioned it on the show before the season started.
Just go on and Google Daniel Ricciardo parkour challenge. And he did this huge, jumping from lounge to lounge. Then he jumped through the pool area in his backyard. It was the funniest thing I think I saw the whole of lockdown. So, yeah, that was definitely another highlight.
Send us a link for that and I'll put it on the webpage for the show.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I would like to see that. But looking back on the year, I think in a way the big triumph was really that we managed to have an F1 season at all, that they managed to pull together as complete a calendar as they did and managed to make it all work. Given the number of people that are travelling around the world to put that show on, the fact that so few of the people involved in the sport were affected by COVID is a testament to how good a job F1 did of taking the show on the road. So yeah, that I think in a sense was the big triumph of the year. A real highlight though was simply Romain Grosjean getting away with that crash. Seeing him walking away from the side of the accident was, I think, was probably the biggest high of the year for me. That really was a high point of the season. Although we've had a year in which Hamilton equalled Schumacher's World Championship record and broke other records, in a way that wasn't one of the highlights, simply because I guess we expected it. It's no great surprise. On the other hand, having Gasly on the podium in Italy and having Perez get his stellar results at the end of the season were actually kind of bigger highlights in a way.
I think so, definitely.
The two most memorable images of the year for me were probably Gasly sitting alone after the podium ceremony in Italy, kind of just taking the moment in, and the image of Dr. Ian Roberts helping Grosjean over the mangled fence out of the burning wreckage of his car. Those two images are the ones that I think we'll remember above anything else from this year.
I agree.
And they're both great stories.
I also think that image, you stole the words from my mind there, Zog, of Gasly on the podium at Monza. Seeing the way that Gasly responded to that win, it was almost relief for him in some way. You could tell the enormous pressure that Formula One drivers are under, that we arguably disregard. They take their sport even more seriously than we do, and we're seriously passionate fans. And you got a sense of almost like the anguish being over for him, because Gasly had a difficult journey. He'd been promoted up to the Premier Red Bull team, then demoted back down to AlphaTauri, and then proved himself. But he didn't stand on that podium sort of teeth clenched and a fist punching, going, look at me, I did it. He sat there sort of reflective, kind of, I knew I was right all along. And I think the stresses on not just the drivers, not just the team managers, not just the mechanics, but their families as well at home throughout this very difficult season has made this last year something unique in the history of Formula One. I think we've witnessed a very special season. Also, the fact that we had these tremendous wild cards this year, where we had circuits that they've not raced at for a long time, on some circuits that they've never raced at before, that wild card made this season a journey unlike any other that I can remember. One of the most satisfying F1 seasons ever. And the fact that Lewis matched and broke all those records just adds to how special it was, in my opinion. I think we've been very lucky this year.
We have. You mentioned going to different tracks that we haven't been to for a long time. Would you want to see the sport revisit any of those venues, either of you? Or do you think they were kind of one-off experiments that we wouldn't want to go back to?
Yes, and more. I think every season should have a wild card circuit, because we've learnt that the data gathering in Formula One is so detailed and comprehensive these days that very often weekends play out the way the teams expect them to. Immediately you put them on a new circuit, or even a circuit that's had a new surface that behaves differently to last year, the results tumble in a very different way. So I would argue that you want at least one circuit Formula One has never raced on before, hasn't for a very long time, in every season, if not more. And I also think there's a bit of a backlog in Formula One at the moment. We have a limited number of seats available for a great number of great drivers. I think they should introduce a rule whereby for 2 races in the year, you have to run your spare driver. Now, we saw it when
not a bad idea.
Hulkenberg came in this year. We saw it when...
That was a highlight for me.
Yeah, that was a highlight, Sarah, wasn't it? It was a very exciting thing. Every team should be forced to stand down one of their drivers for at least one race in the season. It's like the opposite of playing the Joker in It's a Knockout. And that random variable is what improves the sport, for my mind.
Yeah, I can see positive and negative consequences of that idea. For one thing, it would simply give the reserve drivers a bit more to do during the year than, sit on the sidelines, twiddling their thumbs, waiting for something to happen. And it gives us as fans a chance to see what somebody else can do in the car. You've got another reference point. Like you say, it's good to see a driver like Hulk getting a run out from time to time. But do you want to be the one that goes to one of your drivers and says, right, well, we're standing you down for the next 2 races so that Jack Aitken can have a go instead?
That adds drama, though, doesn't it?
It does have drama.
It's going to compromise one of your drivers' competitiveness in the Drivers' Championship. I guess as a team, it's not going to affect you and your competitiveness in the Constructors' Championship because it's a level playing field. Every team has to put their reserve driver in. But for the front-running teams, I guess less so for the back of the grid team, but for the front-running teams, that could be a bit of an issue. Isn't that a problem?
Well, it's their problem, you know what I mean? And it's a problem they have to overcome. So it adds another level of difficulty to what the teams choose to do, in my opinion. Let's just take, for example, the penultimate race of the season, where we had George Russell drafted up into the Mercedes team, and oh my lord, what a revelation that was. I mean, Zog, I know you've always said he's a great driver, we've always held him in high regard, but to actually see him deliver at that level was, again, another one of the coloured levels of the joy of the sport this year. And we didn't mention that in a highlight, but it truly was, I think, of all the races, that was the one we were most excited about. Would you agree, Sarah?
I do agree. I think it was a fantastic highlight. And as you said, he really delivered and he really was able to show off just exactly how good he was. Being a devil's advocate, though, I think a lot of drivers, given his opportunity, may have delivered just as well. I'm not saying, say, for example, Valtteri Bottas, I don't want to disregard his talent, but it would be really interesting to know how some of the other drivers would go in that Mercedes. But George Russell has obviously very much proved himself, and I did see that Toto Wolff at the end of that race said that a star was born. It was pretty disappointing for him, though. It's only human to be gutted. You'd have to have a little bit of empathy for the poor boy. It was not his fault at all. I think Daniel Ricciardo even said it reminded him of when he was leading Monaco in 2016.
It happens.
Yeah.
The fact that Mercedes made such a balls of that race with their tyre swaps and stuff proves how brilliantly disciplined that team is generally, because they just don't make those sorts of mistakes on a weekly basis. They are consistently great.
Yeah, it was just bizarre.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
Yeah.
But the fact that they got it wrong, I think, amplifies how good that team is generally. So if you were going to give the 2020 Formula One season a score out of 20, how many races do we have in the end? Was it 17 races? Yeah, I think it was 17. So Sarah, if you were going to give F1 a score out of 20 for 2020, what would it be?
I'd have to say a good 16.5.
Oh, 16.5. It would have been 17 if Danny Rick had got a win, wouldn't it?
Probably, yeah. Maybe even 18.
And Zog, your score?
I was going to say, a Danny Rick win would be surely worth more than an extra 1.5 points on the season. It has to be worth more.
Okay, yeah,
than
you're
1.5.
right, you're right. What if you
Yeah,
won
come
the
on.
whole thing? My goodness.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say 17, so I'm interested. We were so close. You're saying 16.5. I'm saying 17. Yeah, 17.
Okay, I'm going to say 17. Actually, I'm going to say 18.
Oh,
because I think
controversial.
that the sheer fact that F1 could get through that season and make it happen, and that we, to be honest, didn't even really miss the crowds there at the races. You know, we were
That's
just
true.
focused on the racing.
As a spectator at home, yeah.
Yeah, I think you miss out by not being able to go there yourself, but from a television spectacle, I give it 18 out of 20. Well done, Formula One. We'll finish with a round of applause.
Yeah,
There we go.
absolutely.
Santa! We found this last-minute letter you might have missed!
Dear Santa, as you know, I'm not a religious man, not in any way at all. That's not a very good start. And I don't believe in God. Oh dear. And I'm fairly certain that I don't actually believe in you either, Santa. Well, we'll see what we can do about that. But as 2020 has been a bit of a tricky year, I was just wondering if, to end this rather difficult last 12 months or so on a bit more of a positive note, you could possibly grant me a small Christmas wish. Do you think you might find a way of getting Porsche to return to the top category at Le Mans, either with a hypercar or an LMDH? Yours, Zog, Fulham, London, England. Well, God, what do you think?
Oh, all right then, Santa. Wish granted. But I bet that atheist so-and-so still won't go to church on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas from Gareth Jones on Speed!
We're kind of looking back at what we enjoyed about 2020. I want to talk about something I really enjoyed in a moment that wasn't Formula One this year, but it's something that we do talk about on the programme. And I'm sure, Sarah, you've got something you want to talk about, am I right?
Oh, yeah. Yep. I've got something I want to talk about. That's for sure.
Okay, right. We'll come to that in a second. But Zoggy, I want to know, of all the stuff that happened in 2020, what is it that gave you, I don't know, the most satisfaction, the most joy?
It's been a tricky year. It's been a tough year in so many ways, and the good stuff has been thin on the ground. But undoubtedly, one of the highlights, a real thrill, and something that gave me a great deal of joy, was seeing the test of the SpaceX Starship SN8 just in the last few days, which granted did end in a fiery explosion, which is never a good look for any kind of test. But up until that moment, it was a successful test, and a massively more successful test than the explosion at the end would suggest. And let's just, for anyone that isn't familiar with the event, this was SpaceX testing the next iteration of their enormous Starship reusable space vehicle. And it was the first sort of full flight test of the reusable upper stage. This was not a manned vehicle. The plan is that in its final versions, when it's fully developed, it will carry up to 100 people at a time into space, and it will be able to re-enter the atmosphere and land on its base, pointy end up, flamey end down, as SpaceX
The
say.
correct way,
The
yes.
correct way. Kind of old school sci-fi fashion. And this was the first test they'd done of a kind of full-up prototype in which it would take off, ascend to several kilometres, belly flop back down through the atmosphere, then flip itself the right way round and land on its tail. And everything went perfectly until the last moment when there was that rapid, unplanned disassembly. And it really was so exciting to watch. It was such a thrill. And it is another significant step down the road to developing this very exciting vehicle. But one thing that actually struck me about the project was that there's an interesting way in which it sort of doesn't represent progress. At the same time that we are seeing the first flight of what is likely to be a very successful reusable vehicle for getting cargo and people into low Earth orbit and way beyond. Mm-hmm. And it represents significant innovations in being a design that can be refueled in orbit, that can be refueled on the surface of Mars. That's why it uses liquid methane as the fuel, because that's something that you can pull out of the atmosphere on Mars, liquefy, and then fill up your tanks with. There's a sense in which it's kind of, in a way, represents not all that much progress from where we were in the early part of the 20th century with liquid fuel rockets compared to the way that the car has developed over the last 100 years.
Yeah.
In the sense that it's a vehicle made of stainless steel, not made of any advanced composite materials, aerospace, aluminium or carbon fibre. It's made of stainless steel, which was around in the 1920s. And it's a chemical rocket that burns a hydrocarbon fuel and liquid oxygen, which is what Robert Goddard's first liquid fuel
multi-stage rockets, yeah.
Rocket. Well, Robert Goddard's first rocket wasn't multi-stage, obviously, and what we saw tested last week wasn't multi-stage. It was the upper stage. So it's actually very comparable to Goddard's first rocket in that sense. This is a vehicle that was made out of materials that we had in the early part of the 20th century, using the same kind of liquid-fueled chemical rockets that we had in the early part of the 20th century. In that sense, we really haven't come very far in terms of rocket technology.
How interesting.
And if you compare that to the automobile, there's arguably been much greater progress in terms of materials, in terms of bringing composites and other materials into the vehicles, and also bringing new technology into the source of propulsion.
Yeah.
You've got electric motors replacing the internal combustion engine, you've got batteries or hydrogen as a store of energy replacing your fossil fuels. So you could make a case in a slightly cranky way that the automobile has developed far faster and further than rockets over the course of the last century.
Interesting point, yeah. When I look at Starship and see it gleaming in its stainless steel, it looks like a Buck Rogers rocket, a rocket from the days before we really had rockets. It looks science fiction. And the idea that it's the same technology of 100 years ago is fascinating. But here's a final thought, a counter to what you've just said, Z. Do you remember the first Porsche?
Well, the loaner Porsche was, of course, an electric and or hybrid vehicle. So yes, we've come full circle there.
I rest my case. Good, yeah, I would agree. Yeah, the works of SpaceX this year, not just that incredibly dramatic flight of Starship, but also the success of 2 Crew Dragon flights to the ISS has been truly rewarding this year. A vintage year for rocketeers like us guys. Sarah, how was your 2020? Because as a freelancer, surely it's all going to rotate around work for you. Hasn't it been tricky this year?
Oh, it's been tricky, but I think me, like the rest of the world, has had the same, I guess, problems.
Yeah.
The beginning of the year looked very bright and bubbly. You know, I was about to work on the W series and that would have been fun, but only that got cancelled. So that put a bit of a spanner in the works. So I got to enjoy some lockdown, some summer in the city, and hung out with lots of neighbours in the community, and that part was fun. So there was a silver lining, I suppose. So it was a bit of a forced break. And then, you know, finally a watershed moment when I started working on the world's greatest cars. And I was the archive producer, and so I was working solidly since, I don't know, September. And that was really fun. So I got to learn about the latest and greatest, the world's greatest hot hatches, luxury cars, supercars, sports cars, 4x4s. Actually, trivia question for you.
Okay.
In light of me working on the world's greatest cars,
Yeah.
which manufacturer was the 1980 Popemobile? And it comes from the 4x4 family. and
Yep.
served in the war.
I know the answer.
Tell me which manufactures the 1980 Popemobile?
It was a Mercedes, wasn't it?
Yeah, bring.
Yeah, yeah.
Well done, well done. G-Wagon.
I remember the Mercedes Popemobile, but the Pope's coolest car was actually from the mid-90s when the Vatican were granted a design by Lancia, one of my favourite Italian designers, and it felt appropriate that the Pope was driving around a Lancia. And I think it was based on the Lancia Dialogos, I think it was called.
Okay.
And it wasn't technically a Popemobile, but it was the car that the Pope drove around in, because the Popemobile is a very specific vehicle with bulletproof glass, and you can be seen stood up in it. But the Dialogos was more like a conventional saloon. But yeah, I remember that Popemobile. Yeah, it's for sale somewhere, I believe.
Yeah, he repurposed it. Yeah, well, another little trivia question for you. Which very famous person in the history of the world started Volkswagen? Was the person that was behind Volkswagen?
Yeah, well, I know the answer to that, but Zoggy, you going to say?
I mean, it's controversial.
Well, there could be a couple of answers to this. It depends what you mean by the person behind Volkswagen. It depends whether you mean designer or the person who was the political motivation for creating a people's car.
It was, exactly. He created it as the people's car of that time.
Yeah, which is Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
Adolf Hitler.
And I'm not sure famous is the right word, Sarah. I think we should have called him infamous. Really, shouldn't we?
Yeah, well, infamous, famous is the wrong word. But, because I was doing this research, it's like, Volkswagen, it's racist. I said, why is Volkswagen racist? And then I was like, because the founder was.
Yeah. It's a bit of an issue.
Yeah, a little bit of an issue.
To be fair, though, Hitler did actually drive around himself in a Mercedes during the Second World War. And if I remember, Ford were also accused of being racist for having Jewish slave labour.
Yeah, because Henry Ford was massively racist. I mean,
there you go.
Henry Ford was a Nazi sympathiser.
Yeah.
There you go.
So let's not simply accuse Volkswagen of being racist. Pretty much all of culture was racist in that period.
I think they've tried to change their tacts since. But anyway, it's a very historic, it's a classic car.
Yep.
I really got to know some vehicles.
It was called the KDF-Wagen when it first came out, which actually stands for Kraft durch Freudewagen, the strength through joy car. But Sarah, your series, World's Greatest Cars, I've only seen one of them, which was Hot Hatches, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a terrific programme.
It was quite cool, wasn't it?
I have to say, I thought that the archive footage was chosen particularly well and couldn't fault any clip. Well played, girl.
A mammoth effort of getting that archive footage over the line. I'm talking going global for that archive footage, contacting every single manufacturer in the history of the world.
You did well.
Jaguar, Land Rover, Mercedes, Ferrari, getting all these legal documents signed. So it was an experience, believe me, but there was a result and we got there. I think because of COVID, they had to change the way they were going to make the show. So we couldn't go out and shoot anything. So it was all heavily relied on archive footage, but we met the deadlines. It went to air, didn't it? And you enjoyed it.
I loved it. I can't remember which channel is it on.
Quest.
So if you haven't seen it, by the way, listeners, I strongly recommend it. And look out for the credit at the end of the programme, Sarah Leach. You know the woman, she's on this show. Now, for me, one of the highlights of 2020 was motorsport, but I think it was almost as good as Formula One this year, but it wasn't Formula One. I'm not talking about the World Endurance Championship. I'm not talking about Formula E, which I have to admit went over my head completely this year. It was FIA Formula 2, to give it its full title. As part of the Sky television package, which I pay an absolute ruddy fortune for in order just to watch Formula One, I get 2 F2 races pretty much every F1 weekend. And if F1 races are occasionally still processional, I don't think there was a single Formula 2 race in 2020 that was anything other than utterly entertaining, utterly dramatic. And it's matured into a glorious series these days. A few years ago, GP2, which was F2 in its previous incarnation, was a bit of a crash fest. There seemed to be a lot of drivers who were too keen to prove themselves in technology that they weren't completely in control of. But quality of driving in F2 at the moment is exemplary. If I list some of the names of the drivers in Formula 2, you will agree with me that they're all top guys. You will have heard of Yuki Tsunoda, who's going to get a chance in AlphaTauri next year. He's glorious, and also arguably the cutest driver ever in motorsport. Wait until you see him take his helmet off. He looks like a singer in a Japanese boy band, like a J-pop band. He's got manga hair. He is so cute and he's so lovely. Callum Ilott, what a tremendous driver. I think Callum got 3 wins this year and yet didn't manage to win the championship. He came second. The new guy, Filipe Drogovic, I love his name, and he sounds like Russian, but he is in fact Brazilian. He's a talent who, when he comes to Formula One, will light things up. Christian Lundgaard is no slouch. Guan Yu Zhou, a Chinese driver, probably the best Chinese driver we've seen in motorsport for many years. Giuliano Alesi, Jean Alesi's son, who switched teams halfway through the season. Not the talent that his father was, but early days. And one of my favourites, Robert Schwartzman. Now, Robert Schwartzman, he sounds German, but he's in fact another Russian driver. There's a whole tranche of great Russian drivers emerging at the moment, maybe because that's where the money is and they're being supported. And I think if he gets a chance in Formula One, that would be justified. Jack Aitken, another great British driver. Luca Giotto, the list goes on. Dan Ticktum, every one of these guys in Formula 2, absolutely worthy of a chance in Formula One, particularly the safe bet that is Mick Schumacher, who had a terrific season, won Formula 2 by only winning, I think, 1 feature race, but he was consistent. You know, he was always on the podium. He was always scoring big points. And I'm actually, in a way, in love with Mick Schumacher. I admired his father. I never liked him because I think he had character traits that I didn't like, and the fact that he was Damon Hill's opponent, and I was a big Damon Hill fan, meant that I couldn't really enjoy Schumacher's talent, even though I could appreciate it. But the sins of the father, you can't condemn the son for the sins of the father. Mick Schumacher is not Michael Schumacher, and he's certainly not Ralph Schumacher. He's not bad-tempered, tempestuous, and only mildly talented. He clearly is very talented, but he's a lovely lad. I don't know if you've ever seen Mick Schumacher being interviewed, but he is a tender, sweet boy.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, I love him for that. So my tip for anyone next year, if you're umming and ahhing about paying for Sky to watch Formula One, just spend that money and enjoy Formula 2. It's so rewarding. So that was my highlight of 2020, Formula 2. And if you two don't get time to watch Formula 2, I insist that you make it for next year.
I would do that.
I'll tell you what, I'll watch at least one race, but to be honest, I find I spend over a Grand Prix weekend, once I've watched a bit of practice, once I've watched the build-up to qualifying, and then, build up to the race and the race, if I'm going to watch a whole other race as well,
yeah,
at that point I almost start to feel like I maybe have spent a bit too much time with my feet up watching motor racing. Terrible thing to say, but there we go.
Maybe it was because we were in lockdown and I was at home an awful lot more than normal this year that enabled me to watch Formula 2. So maybe it won't work for next year, but by God, I enjoyed this year.
Santa, you're not going to believe this, but we've just found another letter for you that arrived late.
Really? Oh, you are a good little elf. Here, let me read it. Dear Santa, 2020 has been a very difficult year for me in lockdown here in London. And because of travel restrictions due to COVID-19, this year, sadly, I won't be able to fly home to see my family back in Australia. Oh dear, that is a bit sad, isn't it? So, the only thing that could lift my spirits over Christmas would be if you could arrange as my special Christmas gift for Daniel Ricciardo to win a race or 3 next year. and perhaps even have a shot at winning the F1 Drivers' Championship. Ooh. Thank you in advance. Sarah Leach, Notting Hill, London, England. Gosh, I really don't know about this one. I better check with God if this is at all possible. Excuse me, my lord. Sorry for bothering you once again, but, do you think this is doable?
Well, hang on, let me see. This is a tricky one. What engine is in Ricardo's car next year?
He's switching from Renault power to Mercedes power, my lord.
Ooh, well, that is promising. Is he in a Mercedes chassis?
No, my lord. McLaren.
Well, I'm sorry, I can't promise anything. I'm only God, you know, not bloody Bernie Ecclestone.
Gareth Jones on speed.
This wouldn't be a proper works Christmas party if we didn't celebrate in the traditional Christmas way. So I've got some virtual crackers here, and if we can pull some crackers between us. So I'll go with you first. You get one end of this virtual cracker.
Okay.
Right.
Here you go.
And I've got the other end.
Yep.
And Paul. Oh, you won. All right.
Hey.
Have you got a joke in your cracker, Zog?
Yeah, here we go. What Formula One team has the most pirates on its staff?
I don't know what Formula One team has got the most pirates on its staff.
Ferrari.
Oh my goodness. You kidding me?
Cracker jokes are terrible.
It came out of the cracker. What can I do? What can I say? It's
That's really good.
Okay, can you two pull a cracker now? Come on,
Oh
you
my
two.
goodness. Oh, okay. All
okay.
right.
Here we go. I've got one in here. All right. Here
Okay,
we go.
very. There we go. Yep, virtually. I win.
You won that one. What have you got there?
Somebody complimented on my parking today. What do you think they said?
I don't know, Sarah. What did they say?
They left a note on the windscreen. It said, "Parking fine."
Oh,
Hey!
that's shocking. Shocking.
Ooh, very good.
I think the Ferrari one is better. I mean, that's not quite
Cracker worthy.
Formula One related. But
Right, Sarah, I get to pull one with you now. Reach out across the internet.
All right, reaching
and
out.
Paul. Oh,
Yeah.
I won. Right, hang on. Here's my joke. Hold on. Which ex-Formula One driver loves the Yuletide the most?
I don't know which former F1 driver loves Yuletide the most.
Yuletide most.
I'll tell you what it says on here. Felipe Chris Massa.
Oh,
They're supposed to be
really?
terrible, aren't they, cracker
They
jokes,
picked
aren't
Christmas
they?
up.
Right, we've got two more to do, I think, haven't we?
Oh, yeah, no, there's another cracker here.
Okay, Zog, you and me then. Ready?
Here you go.
Paul!
Oh,
You won.
Okay, here we go. What kind of helmets do Formula One drivers use at Christmas?
Oh,
I don't know, Zog. What kind of helmets do Formula One drivers use at Christmas?
Jingle bells.
jingle bells.
Oh!
Very good.
Well, that's a bad one actually. Yeah, no, that's terrible.
Okay, come on, Gareth. It's time for us to share a cracker.
Okay.
So I need to do one with you. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready. Paul!
Ready? And yeah. And I win. So
Go on,
I
read the joke.
I've got two. The first one is, how do you double the value of a rover?
I don't know. How do you double the value of a rover?
Fill it with petrol.
Hey.
Harsh.
So that's not really a joke,
Harsh.
is it? What about, okay, that was so bad. Let's try this one.
Yeah.
What do you call a country where everybody has to drive a pink car?
I'm trying to think that is there some racing point connection here? I don't know. What do you call a country where everyone has to drive a pink car?
A pink carnation.
Oh.
A pink carnation.
Oh, that's good. Yes, that's an A-rated cracker gag.
Right, last one. I want you both to grab the end of my huge cracker here, and
Yeah.
both of you pull at the
Okay.
same time. Here we go. 3,
One.
2,
Here we go.
1.
One.
Oh,
And I won!
Oh, hey.
Unbelievable. Right, and so the final
What you got
joke I've got here says, why did Father Christmas support the Tyrrell Formula One team in the 1970s?
I have no idea.
I don't know. Why did Father Christmas support the Tyrrell Formula One team in the 1970s?
You're going to like this because they were sponsored by Elf.
Oh! I had the image of that six-wheeler in my mind. I should have got that.
Oh, dear me. Right, we've done the jokes. Now, we've been writing some Christmas poetry. I think Christmas is a time for creativity. And Sarah, have you got a poem you've written for us about Christmas?
Yeah, I don't know how good it is. So let's just see. Christmas comes but once a year, not unlike a driver. And if Bottas wins more than once next year, I'll pay you both a $5.
Hey!
I got it. There we go. Bon bon tish.
Excellent.
Very good. And very curiously true as well. Let's see how that plays out. Soggy, have you been creative for Christmas?
Well, okay, so the thing is, I don't really like poetry, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm struggle street.
I think all poems are too long, and, while I know that I'm very good at writing some kinds of things, I also know that I am no good at writing poetry. So I did no work at all on this. I put no effort into it whatsoever. I used an online haiku generator to create my Christmas poem.
Genius.
To give maximum results with minimum actual effort. So I have a Christmas haiku that I did no work on whatsoever. It goes like this. No one triumphant along this ice but I, this serene destination.
Wow.
And that's far better than I could ever have written, so there we go. A Christmas haiku.
And that was written by AI.
Oh, well done.
That was
That's
written
great.
by an online haiku generator.
How absolutely brilliant.
Short and sharp. I like it.
So the robots are coming for us. If I hadn't told you that was written by an online haiku generator, I'm sure I could have pulled off the lie that I'd made it up myself, and you wouldn't have known any difference. So I guess it passes some sort of very, very trivial version of the Turing test.
Genius. Well, typically you went for a high-tech haiku, and I'm going for a traditional Welsh form of poetry. It's in English, but at Christmas we have this tradition in Wales called Plygain, which, let me see if I can try and explain. It's actually a service that takes place in a church between 3 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the morning, very convenient, on Christmas morning, where we gather to read poems and to sing songs. They're not quite carols because the tradition of Plygain predates Christianity. The original pagan midwinter festival was hijacked by Christianity, and that's what became Christmas. And so it's a very ancient form of entertainment. Now, I've actually recorded this for you. These poems are usually sung in the Dorian scale, so kind of very tonal singing, a very ancient medieval sound. Here is my traditional Plygain Christmas sung poem. Oh, I always hope at this time of the year that a gift might come my way, of a car that I dream of most nights when I'm asleep, and in truth I think of in the day. It is small, it isn't vast, but above all it is fast. It's Italian and four-wheel drive. I know that tonight I shall struggle to sleep tight, in hope that in the morning it arrives. It is made by a brand that you can't buy in this land, a name that won Grand Prix in the 50s, and I remember when it got pole at Le Mans back in the 1980s. They made luxury saloons and beautiful coupes, unbeatable back in the day. They won championships in rally. This car is up my alley. A Lancia Delta Integrale. I
did. That was amazing.
Well, you definitely put a lot more effort into that than I
Very
did into
good.
mine.
That's brilliant. I mean, yeah, I think I
No
come.
question.
Oh, they're all
That's
valid.
brilliant.
Now then,
Well done.
we've got to wrap this
That's
up. We're running
fantastic.
way over time, but I
Hang on,
believe
Christmas
we've got
presents.
some gifts to give each other. Zoggy, do you want to go first?
Yes, sure. Let me see. Where do we go? Gareth, I have a present for you here. Can we share? Can I send a link?
If you send a link in the
This
message
present to
window,
you,
can
how
you
would-
see the message window there?
Okay, here you go.
All right.
You can unwrap that.
Oh, what have I
It's a
got?
fairly large package there.
I'm opening it up, the link now. I love virtual gifts. They're so much easier. What's this? A 1977 Mario Andretti Lotus full top cowl. Oh, Zogger. Oh,
Nice bit of classic Formula One memorabilia there. I know you love Lotus and,
I do.
And classic Formula One, so a genuine bit of Mario Andretti raced JPS Lotus.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that would be right.
Of all the Lotuses, the John Player Special Series were the greatest cars. That incredible paint scheme, the black with JPS written in
Oh,
gold.
yeah. Great.
And
Beautiful.
Mario number 5 on it. An actual full top cowl. I would have that on the wall behind me if I could do that virtually. So that is a fantastic gift. Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome. Sarah, now for you, I've got...
Here we go. I'm excited.
Actually, I've got you a couple of presents here because...
Oh, brilliant.
First off, I thought, as you can't go home to Australia
Yeah.
this Christmas, you might be missing home a little.
Ooh.
So I thought you could probably do with a little care package, a little taste of home.
Oh, premium Aussie gift box. Oh my goodness, this is brilliant. Oh, well done you. Tim Tams, Caramello Koala. Brilliant. Daryl Lee Twist.
You have to tell us what these
Licorice
are,
Twist.
Sarah. What is this stuff?
Okay, so these are all the Australian food or treats that you just cannot get here in the UK. So a Caramello Koala is a chocolate koala with caramel in it. They're amazing. Tim Tams.
It sounds pretty good.
Tim Tams, the chocolate Tim Tams that you dunk in your tea. Daryl Lee Raspberry Twists, anything Daryl Lee really. I've got a koala key ring, so that's brilliant. Paw lip balm, amazing. Eucalyptus lollies, there we go, straight from the eucalyptus trees. They're very good for coughs and colds. So yeah, I'm very stoked. Yeah, that is such a clever thought.
Excellent.
And a cuddly koala toy.
Stoked is the best and only response to that, isn't it?
There we go.
Yeah.
A little sort of comforting flavour reminder of home.
Anzac biscuits too.
Because I'd spent so much money on Gareth's Mario Andretti memorabilia,
No, that was $9,000. I was like,
it seemed like your box of goodies wasn't looking so good. So I thought I should also get you this.
okay, here we go.
I tracked down an international music and celebrity
Oh,
talent
my.
booking agency.
Yep.
So for your next social event, or indeed to perform in your living room, Kylie Minogue. There you are.
That's brilliant. Okay, I've always loved Kylie. That's great.
Me too.
I should be so lucky.
Oh, very good.
Oh, this is great.
Everyone
Thanks,
loves
Son.
Kylie.
I'm absolutely chuffed.
You're
super
welcome.
keen.
I'm looking forward to the gig.
Me and Kylie like this.
Do you know what?
Yeah, you should come.
I would have been
We'll
happy
go.
with that as well. I love Kylie too, and Danny, and Brendan, their
Kylie,
brother,
Danny.
all the Minogues.
Kylie has by far the best musical back catalogue.
She does.
All respect to Danny,
Yeah.
but Kylie Minogue has a proper back catalogue of bangers. So,
She
yeah.
does. She's got some bangers.
So when you do get Kylie Minogue to virtually perform in your living room, what does it cost? Any idea?
Price on application.
Fair enough.
Price
I think
on
we'll leave it there.
application.
Okay,
That's the price.
I've got gifts for you now. Sarah, I'm going to do yours first. Now,
Okay.
I had a bit of a journey as well because the
Really?
first thing I thought about getting you was this, but the rule of the gift was it had to be actually available now. So when you see this, you will understand why it doesn't actually qualify. If you click on that link, you'll see.
Okay, I've just realised that my gifts to you guys may not qualify.
We'll allow that. That doesn't matter. This is virtual gift giving. Can you see what your gift would have been if it were possible?
Yeah, I'm opening it. Okay, let's have a look. Supersonic 4,000 miles per hour rocket plane that could fly people from the UK to Australia in just 4 hours. That's amazing.
Not available yet, but that is HOTOL, the British horizontal takeoff and landing air-breathing rocket plane which is currently in development.
Should I book for the year 2030?
Yeah, as soon as
only
it's
9
ready,
years
I
ago.
will pay for you to get that flight to Australia on a supersonic,
4 hours.
ultrasonic jet with an air-breathing rocket motor, British design. You could be home in 4 hours. You could
That
record
is
on speed and go home
amazing.
for dinner.
Yeah, I know, right? You're
But-
kidding. That's unbelievable. How can you be home in 4 hours?
I know, I can't get to North Wales
That's
in 4
one
hours.
of your rocket ships going around the other side of the world. Do you think we'd belly flop at the end?
It's doing a suborbital hop.
It is.
It is, isn't
Yeah.
it?
You have to get out of the atmosphere if you want to go really fast.
Yeah. I mean, Gareth, that's fantastic. That's an amazing gift.
Well,
That's
it's not what
very
I
thoughtful
actually
too.
got you because it's not
Okay.
available yet.
It's not
So
available just yet. So
this
what
is
did you
something that
actually
is
get?
available. I've just sent it to you now via the Skype message. Click on that link. Can you see it?
Clicking on the link right now. Whoa, it's a car. It's a rare Vauxhall Monaro. It's a nice car. It's brilliant.
Well, more than a rare car. That is the only Australian-built car that was on sale in the UK in the last 10 years. It's Vauxhall Monaro, or as you know it, the
Yep.
Holden Monaro.
Holden
And this is a very
Monaro.
rare version, the VXR 500.
Sounds like a bogan car. Is it a bogan car?
It is a
hooligan.
bogan car. It's only got 14,000 miles on it. It's got a
Classy. It's
6-litre
great.
engine. It's got a Harrop supercharger. So it's not just a car. It's a very, very cool Australian car. So a little bit of
Available
Oz
now?
in the UK. It's there. It's on eBay.
It's
for
on
sale
eBay.
right now for a mere £39,995. All yours.
That's not a cheap car. Second hand.
It's a lot of car for your money.
You're going to have a lot of fun in it, though.
Very generous, Gareth. You are very generous.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Wait until you see what I've got, Zogger. Merry
40
Christmas,
grand.
Sarah.
Okay,
now,
yep.
Zoggy, here's what I was considering buying
wait.
for you.
Okay.
You're going to like this. This is what you could have had. Okay, message sent. Click on that link now. Go on.
All right, I'm opening the link. Oh, a Concorde turbojet engine complete with afterburner. Crikey. What could you do with that? I mean, it would be obviously a nice centrepiece for your living room, obviously.
Yeah.
If you had a sufficiently large living room.
Well, I know you're good at engineering. I
But
figured
yeah,
you might
you-
try and fit it into your Porsche.
Well, I've repurposed a few surplus or second-hand bits one way or another. You know, I turned an old image intensifier tube from an old Chieftain tank gun sight to make a night vision device,
I remember.
which works very well, actually. It's got a nice bit of hacking.
I have to say, the proviso, that Rolls-Royce Olympus engine, it was £565,000 for sale on eBay. It genuinely is for sale on eBay. And I know it won't go in your Porsche. So what I did actually virtually buy you was... Click on that link.
Oh, okay, here we go. Tesla Model 3 electric rear drive motor engine. So I could replace my rear transaxle
It's a good idea.
with that.
Exactly.
Okay, so where am I going to put the batteries up? I guess I've got to put the batteries in the front. I've got to say, if I had to electrify that vehicle, that would be, I guess, a good way of doing it. Probably be more inclined to build an electric vehicle from scratch than I would be to
Yeah, convert yours.
to take out the old driver. Yeah, you know, it's a good bit of design and engineering as it is. I'm not inclined to rethink it too far, but I could definitely do something with this motor assembly.
Good.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Thanks a lot, Gareth. Yeah,
That would give you hours of fun, Zog.
Exactly. A gift that keeps on giving,
yeah, I'm going
Sarah.
to build a really lightweight chassis around that, and then I just need to figure out what kind of range I want to get out of it, battery-wise. Okay, that's my next lockdown project.
I
Thanks.
knew you'd
Excellent.
like it. Good.
Beautiful.
Now, these are virtual presents. And when we say virtual, I went all out. So I'm going to have to verbally tell you what I got. I can't necessarily provide links, but you get the idea. So I'm going to start with you, Zog.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
Zog, your gift this year for Christmas, it's an experience. So I'm giving you the gift as an astronaut experience on the Starship to be part of the next test flight experience. And this time, hopefully, it won't do a belly flop. It'll come back and land. So you will be on that,
Oh,
that
wow.
Starship. Yeah.
Now-
Yes. I think you'd be pretty excited with that. What do you think? Do you like
You've
that
nailed it,
present?
Sarah. That's absolutely spot on. Thank you. I've always wanted to be an astronaut, no question about it. My one kind of caveat is, as long as you can guarantee me that it's not going to blow up, yeah, I'm taking it. That's beautiful. I can't wait.
Yeah, I went back and watched the replay of that whole thing, and I just thought, you know what? I really think that Zog would have the best time if he was on that spaceship. He could see it all happening live.
What a ride! What a ride!
And Sarah, you know, Zog is such an optimist that if he was on board that flight, he would say, wow, great liftoff, it's going well, but it's still going well, right up until the last second, just before the explosion. Zog could still be going, it's going great!
There we go.
That was a perfect gift, because you know
dear.
what Zog considers his highlight of the year, so you just added to that.
That's what I thought. I thought, oh, he's going to love my Christmas
Yeah,
present.
there you go. You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it.
All right, Gareth, and for you, Gareth, you're British. You love your Formula One.
I do.
And I tell you what, I got you another experience as well.
Oh, I love an experience.
This is what I am giving you, a gift for Christmas that you are going to have not just a day in the life of, a weekend in the life of Lewis Hamilton during race weekend. So you will be Lewis Hamilton.
I actually get to be Lewis Hamilton.
You're the man. You will get to be in his place.
You do like a body swap.
And you know what? If you could just give me £100 every single time you say the word grateful as Lewis Hamilton, that would be great.
Blessed. Totally. I know all the words. Blessed. Totally. The guys, the team. Really great job. I could do that. I could do it right now.
My best fans. Yep.
I would be very, very happy with that. Guys, what glorious gifts. Thank you both.
And thank you.
Thank you
both.
That's it. You've been listening to Gareth Jones on Speed for 2020. I want to thank Zog, you and Sarah particularly, for staying with us throughout this tricky year and making this show. Despite not being able to be physically in the same room, we have found a way of still making this program and delivering it to so many people who I know enjoy on Speed. So thank you to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's been, a very interesting year. So here's to the next 12 months.
Hey, and thank you, Zog, for what's been our 16th series together on Gareth Jones on Speed. Unbelievable.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Been a pleasure working with you both.
And thank you to all our gorgeous listeners for downloading this show and contacting us and keeping the show going, because every download, every listen gives us a reason to make another episode. And there will be plenty more episodes of Gareth Jones on Speed as we enter season 17 next year. Are you two both in for it?
I'm in.
Absolutely.
Cheers. Well, can I propose a toast? Cheers, guys.
Yeah, cheers. Ting, ting, ting. Ting, ting.
Cheers.
Cheers. And Merry Christmas. Happy Festivus.
Happy Festivus. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Happy Festivus.
Farewell, Sarah. Farewell, Zog. We're going to play out with a song as usual, a specially written Christmas song for this year. Here's a song in the style of me, Gareth Jones on Speed, and this song is called Before Christmas. See ya next year, guys. Say bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
It's been a year full of regrets, nights without sleep, cold sweats, but my faith in you was restored. I'm not religious, but thank the Lord that F1 came back on board. I was still on TV just before Christmas. I'm sure one race driver looked back and think maybe I should have taken a different tack. Perhaps I shouldn't have signed for Williams and brought them cash from my sponsor in millions. But their poor performance has built my resilience, and at least Claire and Frank will have money in the bank before Christmas. Regrets, I've had a few, but I guess not as many as you. Perez, I suppose your view is that you should have closed a deal for a drive before Christmas. Oh, Bottas tries his best, but he couldn't better Lewis once again this year.
There's one thing he'll hold dear that will bring him some Yuletide cheer. That in Saudi Arabia at least he finished one place ahead of Lewis before Christmas. And when Vettel takes time to reflect, you think, hey, what the heck? I'm a four-time champion, and I know that won't happen again. But from now on, I won't have to deal with Scuderia politics. And at least I'll have an Aston Martin before Christmas. So when you think it's been tough, 2020 we've had enough. Next year won't be anywhere near as rough. We'll put COVID-19 behind us and give each other a long-needed hug. Now's the time to shake the bad stuff off and look forward to some wonderful stuff before Christmas. Before Christmas.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site, follow us on Twitter, or to find out about sponsorship opportunities, go to garethjones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.
Gareth Jones on Speed!